You are listening to the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks.
War Eagle Auburn fans, welcome to No Huddle, your source for Auburn football news and discussion, part of the E2C Network. I'm AJ Richardson, and it's Georgia Hate Week. I got my buddy Jared Davis. We both live in Georgia. I feel like we have a little bit more hatred than a lot of people just because we live in the state of Georgia towards the University of Georgia in football. You know what I'm saying, Jared? Am I making sense?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I'm an Auburn fan, so I'm supposed to dislike Alabama fans more. But honestly, being living in Georgia, it's probably them because that's what I'm around. I mean, every fan base has bad fans. I'm not trying to say Georgia has any worse, but that's just what I'm around. So it's big to me to win. And we have not done that a lot in this series in the last, several years. So, yeah, it's a big week for me and you.
Yeah, and I don't know if I think I've said this before, but maybe Georgia fans just seem like they're worse, not only because we're in the state of Georgia, but I think it also has to do with Georgia fans seem to be a little cocky, but they can't necessarily back it up all the time. So maybe that kind of gets under my skin. At least Bama fans, like they can be a little cocky because they can back up the play on the field. Georgia fans, they still haven't won since well before Auburn beat LSU. So in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do have several level-headed buddies that I chat with constantly about football, and they're level-headed. But I have run into several UGA fans in the state of Georgia who definitely, their mentality is Ohio State, Bama, Clemson level, and, they don't have the hardware for that right now. But it's probably coming because they are just loading up on talent. So, but yeah, as of right now, I agree with you that you do run into certain fans that have that mentality and not necessarily the hardware right now to back it up.
Yeah. And you got to think with the amount of recruiting that Georgia has done of recent that they are going to get up there and they're going to have some more chances to win a national championship. And it's probably going to happen. I hate to say it, but it's probably going to happen soon. Is this year? I think all Georgia fans are saying, yes, this is the year, but they say that every year. So, I don't know.
Yeah, their thorn in their side has been, we beat them in 2017, but it didn't really matter because they beat us in the SEC championship game, so they still got in. Their thorn in their side has been Alabama. They can't get over that hurdle, and that's, there's a lot of football to be played. Most people think they'll win the East. If they do, that's going to be another hurdle most likely, barring, Ole Miss or Auburn or Arkansas somehow winning the West. But yeah, they're going to have to get over that Alabama hurdle again.
Yeah, and Alabama and Georgia are easily the top two best teams in the nation. So for Georgia and the SEC championship to get over them, and maybe again in the playoffs if that matches up against them again, that's going to be. Either way, it's going to be a tough one. But I think the way Georgia's playing defense right now, they're a tough team. They're just gritty, and that's something that can win you championships. It's just a matter of can you put it all together on a weekly basis and get yourself in a position to now get into the playoffs and win your playoff games. So I think Georgia's got a better shot than a lot of years, but they've got to put it all together and keep doing it week in and week out.
Yeah, their defense is so good. They threw the ball 11 times against Arkansas, completed 6, I think, and they won 37-0. Like that's like they didn't have to. They literally went out there and just ran the ball. They didn't have to get. Yep. They didn't have to get creative. They just played. They just manned up and beat you because they have a defense that they can rely on.
Yeah, and it's impressive. Their team or their defense right now, they're only allowing about 177 yards per game, and that's tough. Like any team, I don't think any. Maybe Arkansas was previously. They've had really good offensive games, but I don't think there's been any really good teams they've faced where it's like, yeah, they definitely were good offense. But I think that Georgia's defense is still very, very good. I mean, if you throw out a couple more stats, just to kind of put in perspective, like this defense is good. They haven't had a touchdown, or their defense hasn't allowed a touchdown since week 3. They're good. And even that touchdown, I think, was a kind of a garbage time touchdown. So we're going to have we got an uphill battle on offense. We're going to have to come up with, I feel like, some pretty innovative stuff to move the ball against Georgia. I think the one good thing is, think back to, when we had Gus. I feel like Kirby Smart knew how to shut down Gus's offense. We got a different offensive coordinator and head coach now. And I think that there's kind of this question mark, this uncertainty that this offense has for Auburn, that, maybe that's enough to, score some points on Georgia. I feel like that's kind of yet to be seen, but I think that if we get some good points on the scoreboard, I think we pull some plays that we've only shown in practice and we haven't actually done in a game yet. I feel like that's going to be where they come from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jared.
No, I was, it's going to be, I go back to, I think it was 2019. This Georgia team's not much different than the last few that have come into Auburn. 2019, it was basically a very boring game. And Jake Fromm, I believe it was Fromm, they got one guy over the top in the second quarter for a big gainer, and that's all they needed. Put them up. Yep. It was a very low scoring slugfest, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and I'm not trying to be a homer because I'm hard on Auburn, and I think Georgia is absolutely the better team. But I think this one is going to potentially be closer than the national media thinks, just because of how we have handled the run minus the first quarter of the Georgia State game.
Mm-hmm.
And, except for that game, we've been fantastic against the run. That is what Georgia likes to do. Now, it also determines on, is JT Daniels going to be healthy? Does he play, or does Stetson Bennett? Stetson Bennett is it's a cool story. But I think it totally changes the way they rely or don't rely on the run game. If JT Daniels is in there, then that's going to give them a lot more options. So, not saying we're going to win. I'm just saying we do pretty well with what they want to do, which is run the ball. And if we're able to continue to stop the run, then it's just going to be a lower scoring game than a lot of people probably think.
Yeah, I was even thinking the same about, it depends on if Stetson Bennett or JT Daniels comes in for Georgia. If it's JT Daniels, I think they have a lot more passing options. But if it's Stetson Bennett, we're probably going to see a pretty vanilla run the ball, pass, like you said, a dozen times in a game. But they're going to run the ball and rely on that. So this is going to be a slugfest. I think it's going to be a dirty game. Like, not dirty in the negative sense. It's just going to be the offensive and defensive lines are going to be going at each other, and this may be a good game for us to have the mentality of, we're going to win in the trenches, and we have to win in the trenches to get this win. And so I think that part, I want to see that out of this Auburn team, is kind of that tough. We keep saying blue collar, we're blue collar, we're tough. I want to see it against a good team like Georgia, and this will be a good game to kind of show off that. Let's go into our players to watch for offense, defense, and special teams. Jared, on offense, who are you going to be watching for Auburn in this game against Georgia?
Well, it's not going to be Bo. I feel like Bo might have crossed some invisible line, and he's matured as a quarterback. So for after last week, so I think Bo's going to be okay. I'm going to look at probably Kobe and Robertson at the wide receiver group. I'm going to choose two players. I think they are the two most dynamic we have, and somebody's going to have to make a play. Like, they're going to have to turn a 7-yard slant into a 50-yard gain. Like, somebody's got to go make a play. And in the pass game, and so we need one of those guys to do it. So that's going to be the ones I'm keeping an eye on. How about you?
I think I'm going to be watching Jarquez. I think until Tank gets 100%, we're going to need Jarquez to play well. and have those big plays like he did against LSU. And I think he's got the capability and the explosiveness to do some of that. Now it's just a matter of, can you do it against Georgia's really tough run defense? And this is a good test. Let's move on to defense. Who's your player to watch for defense for Auburn?
I'm probably going to watch probably Owen Papo. Like, does he play is the big question I have there. I know we did well last week against LSU without him, but that will really take a lot off of Zacoby McClain if Papo. I mean, Papo, he's a third-year starter, so and he's a smart guy and he's athletic, and we need all the athletes. We don't have the depth Georgia has, so we need all the starters that we can get. So I think that's what I'm going to see. Does he suit up? Does he play? If he does, I'll feel a little better.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one, because I think the combination of Zacoby and Papo at linebacker, especially since we know more than likely, I think Georgia's going to kind of hit Auburn and just run a bunch. Regardless of the quarterback, there's still going to be a good aspect of that. And if I think we have Papo in there as well. I mean, Zacoby's really good, but I think if we have Papo, it kind of eases that load of Zacoby.
Well, what's the common denominator? The first 3 games, I know 2 of them were not against great teams, but up in Penn State, the common denominator of having a really good run stop was we had both of those guys. And in Georgia State, first half, we had neither of them. Zacoby came in and shut that down in the second half, and LSU just doesn't try to run the ball. So I think let's get back to that common denominator of having both of those guys in there. That might be what gets us back to being the run stop defense that we were the first 3 games.
Yeah, I think so too. On defense, I'm going to be watching Smoke Monday, and just for the sole reason that when he's in pass coverage, I feel like sometimes he can be a little bit of a liability. And I also think Smoke Monday, I'm going to be watching him because when he comes into the run, to stop a run, he does usually a really good job of that. And I think if Georgia does attack us a lot with the run, Smoke Monday will be coming up closer to the line and hitting guys. And if I remember right, the times Auburn has done really well against Georgia have been when our DBs and safeties are coming out of the secondary and hitting guys still in the backfield when they're running. So I think if Smoke Monday has a really good game, I think Auburn's defense will also have a good game.
I like it.
Who on special teams for Auburn are you going to be watching?
Your favorite man, probably Oscar. I think I think when a team. So I haven't watched enough Georgia games. Maybe they do this, but I don't know if they take the top off of defense. They just kind of bully you down the field. Well, when a team likes to do that, they have to have drives. The more plays you make them run, the more chances for mistakes. So if you can somehow pin them deep inside the 20, win the field position battle. Same thing with Auburn. Auburn struggles to take the top off of defense, and that scares me. Like, you got to have big-time plays to win games like this. So I think Oscar's going to be a big deal. Unfortunately, I would love to not see him at all, but I think he's going to be pretty busy, and he could be the deciding factor maybe.
Yeah, and he's done well for the last few games. I've really liked how he's done the kicking. I mean, I can't think of one where I was like, yeah, he kicked it way too low, gave the guy a good opportunity to run it back. He's done a good job, and I think he's going to be much needed for us to do a good job on special teams. I'm going to be watching Anders just because he did miss a couple field goals. One was blocked last week, but I don't think he'll have his confidence lowered. I mean, like I said, all 3 of those were 49 yards or longer. So I don't think his confidence is going to be down. But if we get in scoring position and if we put him out there on the field, I want Anders Carlson to have the confidence to kick the field goals and kind of do what LSU did when we would stop them. What was it, Cade for LSU? He just kept knocking down field goals.
Yeah, he was money.
So I want to see that from Anders this week and have him have a bounce back game.
Hey Auburn fans, I want to take a quick timeout from this episode to bring your attention to something very special. Here at the E2C Network, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best content for Auburn fans out there. And best of all, it's free to you. But just because it's free doesn't mean there aren't costs, especially when you have a library of hundreds of podcasts, videos, blogs, and more. Many of you have reached out and asked how you can support this network in the past. Well, now I have your answer. It's called the E2C Network Booster Club over at patreon.com/E2C Network. There you'll find a membership monthly reward system where you can sign up for as little as $1 and get different perks at different tiers. Some of those perks include things such as apparel, eligibility to join us on future podcasts, recognition as an E2C Network booster, exclusive communications, and bonus content that is available nowhere else. If you love this network and want to help us keep producing podcasts like this one, please head on over to patreon.com/E2C Network to join the E2C Network Booster Club. You can also get there by going to our website, e2cnetwork.com/support. Whether you decide to join or not, we are still so appreciative that you would support us by just listening and being here, because each and every one of you is part of our E2C Network family. Well, that's it. Timeout's over. Let's get back into the episode.
Jared, let's go into our score predictions for this Georgia game. We preseason both predicted that Auburn would win by 3 points. Are you going to keep that? Change it now that we've seen Georgia's team? We've also seen what Auburn's capable of. What are you feeling at this point for your prediction?
Yeah, I'm surprised I picked Auburn would win that, but we just didn't know what everybody had. I don't. I think Georgia wins the game. It pains me to say it. I think they probably win by 6. But 6 is enough room for error. 6 is, a touchdown changes that. But I do think that very low scoring, and I think they do get the victory, unfortunately.
Yeah. I don't know, coming into this week, I've been kind of thinking about the same thing. And I did predict Auburn to win. My philosophy going into it was everybody was overhyping Georgia. It's not their year. Okay, yada, yada. Well, Georgia's pretty good. Come to find out this year. And I like I said, I think the line's at like 14 or 14.5 for Georgia. So I don't think, like you said, I don't think it's going to be that big of a margin, but I still think Auburn loses. I think we might keep it around 1 score. So I'll say Auburn loses by 7 points to Georgia, something like that.
I will say, I think they're very similar to 2017, and Fromm is definitely better than Stetson Bennett. Now, I don't know if Fromm was better than TJ Daniel, but I think the receiving group might have been a little better back then, because I know they've had a couple of people hurt. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, they came in there in that game and literally were steamrolling everybody. And we shut them down. And so I don't know, man. Listen, you and I can admit there's crazy things that happen to Jordan Hare, and we have the talent we have the talent to win this game at home. That we would not win this on the road, no chance.
Yeah, I agree.
At home, we have enough talent to win this game. I don't think we do, but the talent is there to do it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I'm kind of going into this the same way I did with LSU. Like, I think there's a chance, but honestly, if I'm kind of looking at it, I think Georgia's got the edge for us. So, I think that's the way this game's going to go down. Let's go into our last little segment here. An Auburn fan perspective of the SEC. We had a lot of fun games this week. There are some big SEC matchups. Jared, any ones that you want to talk about to start off that kind of stood out to you?
I mean, I think that Ole Miss and Arkansas were reminded of that they're Ole Miss and Arkansas, and that's not a knock on them. They're playing really good football, and they may beat Auburn, but they're not ready to go beat Bama and UGA, which I find hilarious because Lane Kiffin, I think, was a little cocky. I don't know if you saw the pregame. They were asking questions, and he said he answered it kind of snide, and then he said, "Go get your popcorn ready," and he threw the headset at somebody. So I think he was expecting a different result. I don't know anybody at Arkansas that should have been thinking they were going to go in and beat Georgia, but apparently there were. I've talked to several people. So yeah, those did not actually surprise me. I'm like, there's no way Nick Saban loses at home to Ole Miss. I was just like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
If last year would have never happened, they may have snuck up on them this year, but Alabama was so prepared for that. Like, yeah, it wasn't going to happen. So, and then Tennessee, I mean, good gracious. I mean, Tennessee I think they had 42 points, like with time still left in the second quarter. I mean, it was something crazy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I still, it kind of baffles me how much, I think Lane Kiffin has changed, but he's still got that like just cocky kind of side of him. And so I keep coming back to that, I mean, everybody's kind of making it a meme or whatever of him saying, "Oh, grab your popcorn," and you're like, "But your team just went down 35-0, like quick,
yeah,
and looked inept." And Alabama was just like, "Yeah, whatever, Lane. You can talk all you want." So I don't know. There's a lot of talk around that, but I think also the main thing that I kind of got out of it was Alabama's they're going to stop you, and their defense is really solid. And in my opinion, I think they're still number one in the nation. I've kind of heard debates: is it Georgia or Alabama? I think that's Alabama, at least at this point in time.
I do want to add real quick because I don't know why, but I've always kind of found it fun. I don't think Jimbo's a great coach, and they lost to Mississippi State, so I got a little chuckle out of that. I think it's great. I mean, he literally owns Texas A&M. I mean, they owe him so much money, and they may turn this thing around. They may beat us, but they're just so boring to watch, and there's nothing innovative. And last year they won because they had like all seniors on the offensive line, and everybody. They just didn't make mistakes. I don't think Jimbo's that great of a coach. And so I think it's funny that they're paying him a ton of money. So I want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've almost always thought, okay, it's a good hire. Like, he's a good coach. He's done well at places. Even won a national championship.
He did. He beat Auburn.
He did beat Auburn. But I don't think he's all that everybody kind of chalks him up to be. And that's where I think that draw my distinction. It's he's good, but if you're Texas A&M at home, was it at home or
it was at home?
Now.
Yeah, it was at home.
Yeah, like at home, you don't win. I mean, you should not lose that game. You got 100,000 fans behind you. Like, you should not be losing a game to a Mississippi State team like that. It just shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I got a chuckle out of that. I don't know why. I just feel like. He kind of rubs me the wrong way sometimes, too, with his interviews, so I kind of just I just liked it. They lost. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Kentucky beat Florida, and I don't even know if they had positive yards. It was, like, crazy. Kentucky had, like, I think they might have had maybe 200 yards. I don't know. It was something. But, yeah, they beat Florida, man.
Yeah, this was one of the more slow games on Saturday. It didn't seem to take off. Like, I feel like some people were hoping. And I'm just I love that Dan Mullen has now 2 losses, which I saw a funny line out there, and I'm stealing this from somebody. Well, you can't spell Mullen without 2 L's. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, brilliant.
When he said in the interview, somebody asked him about the game or like the Kentucky figuring them out, and he said, well, I don't think they figured us out. We had 300-something yards offense to their 2-something. And everybody's ragging him. They're like, yeah, but they had 20 points to your 13. Like, like you coached the whole team, not just offense. So it was kind of funny. I don't know, man. That was I don't know. Dan Mullen, I think, is a good coach, but he says some really weird things. And I don't know. That one surprised me. I thought they were going to beat Kentucky.
Yeah, I thought so too. I mean, I know Kentucky. They were 4-0 heading into that. Now they're 5-0, but they shouldn't be beating Florida, like a number 10 team. And I think Florida, I mean, they've now lost in a very close one against Bama and now Kentucky. I think they're a better team than this, but it kind of showed that Kentucky can play. And that's, I don't know, I'm still kind of getting used to that. Considering, what was it, just even last year, they had a wide receiver at quarterback for most of the season. So it's like,
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, they're real solid on defense. I mean, they're nowhere near Georgia level. They're solid on defense. They do enough in the run game. Passing game, they kind of still struggling. But, yeah, they're just usually all around solid. They do have a turnover problem. I think they're terrible on that. But it hadn't cost them a game yet.
Yeah. I do think, I mean, just based on this game, I thought Florida's really the only last SEC East team that could potentially rival winning the SEC East. And now, I mean, like, this pretty much secures Georgia as the SEC champs, which is crazy to say, to kind of going in week 5. But I just don't see, I mean, even if Florida comes back from this, they're not going to be able to win the East. So good job, Georgia. You already won it, kind of. I mean, I'm just giving it to them.
Pretty much. I mean, the only thing that would stop that is, and I don't see any way Georgia loses 2 games, but if we somehow beat them and then Florida beats them, I guess that's a 2-way tie, and Florida will on the head-to-head. But, yeah, that's about it. If Georgia beats us this weekend, I think you're right. I think it's theirs.
Yeah. Okay, so, last week we were talking about Vandy, and do you think they'll even win, I think, 3 or 4 games this season? Well, guess what? They did. They beat UConn, who UConn didn't have a win, but they beat them. So I'll give them a little clap for they won a game.
They won the ball game they were playing in, so there you go.
Also, South Carolina beat Troy. I think that was the score ended up being 23-14, but South Carolina, I think, had multiple times where I think Troy could have won. Now the score doesn't really show that at the end of the game, but I think Troy had a legit chance for a lot of that game. And some of that was actually like South Carolina players just making dumb mistakes. And one of those dumb mistakes, I was watching it live, and I just laughed out loud. I was just like, are you kidding me? Did this just happen? Was a South Carolina player recovered a fumble, ran it back, and literally right before the goal line, flips the ball kind of in excitement and celebratory. And guess what? The ball went out of the end zone. They reviewed the play. He did actually, toss the ball out of his hands before he got into the end zone. And then it became a touchback. And I think the part that was the most hilarious was they had a camera on the guy that ended up fumbling it and like literally tossed it out of the end zone. And he was just like, are you kidding me? What the heck? It was beautiful. If you want to, go on the E2T Twitter account. I've got a great video of it that I posted. Just great facial expressions. It's so good.
Yeah, that I just don't understand why players still do that.
I don't know. Like, if I was them, I'd be like, I'm holding on to the ball. Like, if I was them, I'd just be holding on to the ball literally until, like, the ref, like, says, hand me the ball.
I mean, I would seriously be, because this is not like, okay, there's effort plays where you get penalties. But this right here, I would tell my players, if you ever get caught doing that, you will not play again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that, and hold them to that. So.
The final one that I did want to mention for the SEC is Tennessee beat Missouri, and they beat them pretty handily, 62-24. Jared, any thoughts about that game? I feel like SEC East kind of lower hanging teams that aren't that great.
No, I mean, good for them. I got several Tennessee fans. I saw that score, and before half, I was like, wow. So, maybe they can turn a quarter. I got no problem with Tennessee, and the more competitive in the East is, the better. So,
yeah, same here. I mean, better because they're going to face Alabama, play Florida and Georgia harder. Like, I'm A-okay with that.
Yes,
so,
sir.
I would love to see Tennessee start that rebuild, which I feel like they've been hoping for the last, 15 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
All right, Jared, any other comments or anything else you want to say about the Georgia game or any other games that happened this week?
No, other than the fact, so Harsin, he went down and did something we hadn't done in 20 years last week against LSU. If he beats Georgia, and we know we've struggled with them, do they go ahead and build a statue now of him, or do we wait a couple more games?
We better, so hypothetically we beat Georgia and we even beat Saban this year, I think we do build a statue. Like, that doesn't happen. I don't think I think it's less than 1% chance that happens. But if it does, you better get that molding set to figure out where you're putting that, and somewhere around the stadium.
If he wins at LSU and beats Georgia and Alabama, I mean, forget about it. Just name the university after him. I mean, or A&M would probably give. If he wins this weekend, A&M probably will give Jimbo another extension. Has nothing to do with them, but they just like giving him extensions. Oh, Harsin beat Georgia. Here's more money, Jimbo.
Yeah. We heard you might be looking for a different job. We want to pay you more.
Yeah.
Okay, Jimbo.
I literally think they extended his contract right before the Arkansas. Like, they gave another ridiculous. And now they've lost two games, and they play Alabama this week.
Oh my gosh.
So, anyways, all right, I'm off my Jimbo soapbox.
I mean, Texas A&M, they're about to be 3-3, and they're going to be bowl eligible. Let's be honest, by the end of the season. But they're not going to be the team that I feel like they should be. And that's just sad. That's sad for Texas A&M, especially with Texas about to come into the SEC. I feel like, and getting that rivalry going back again, I want Texas A&M to be good again. But it seems like they're going downhill pretty quickly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, Jared, before we get out of here, how can the people stay in touch with you?
You can find me on Facebook under my name, Jared Davis.
And you can find me on Twitter at AJAY_. It's always great to be an Auburn Tiger, and War Eagle.
War Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.